He succeeds me as Duke of Cornwall, and takes on the responsibilities for the Duchy of Cornwall, which I have undertaken for more than 5 decades. William and Catherine's first outing as king and queen was going perfectly until a shocking twist flipped everything on its head. King Charles's health had been quietly declining, a slow and steady drain that few outside the palace noticed. The relentless hours, constant travel, and crushing pressures of kingship were taking their toll, especially after his recent battle with cancer. Doctors insisted on rest, but slowing down was impossible for a man who had spent a lifetime preparing to serve. One quiet evening at Sandringham received breaking news from Buckingham Palace, which has announced that the king has been diagnosed with cancer. Princess Anne arrived, the house was still, the fire crackled, casting shadows across the room. She found Charles sitting alone, hunched over state papers, the dim lamp his only companion. Anne took the seat beside him. "I've read the doctor's report," she said softly, "and I have to say, you've carried this crown with unmatched grace, but it's time to think about what comes next." Charles folded his papers with a heavy sigh. "If I step back now, it will feel like failure," he muttered almost to himself. Anne shook her head, her words slicing through the tension. "Stepping down isn't failure, it's foresight. You've guided Britain through storms. Now pass the weight while you can still guide them. Let William and Catherine take the reins before it breaks you." The king stared into the flames, silence hanging thick in the room. Finally he nodded. "Perhaps you're right. They are ready. The country already sees them that way," he whispered. 3 days later he summoned his son and daughter-in-law to Sandringham. Sunlight streamed through the study windows as they entered. "My dear ones," Charles began, "the doctors say I must rest. The daily duties of the crown must pass on, not because I wish it, but because it is right. I want you to carry them forward together." William hesitated. "Father, we'll do whatever is needed, but we never wanted you to feel replaced." Charles smiled faintly. "You won't replace me, you'll continue me. The monarchy isn't one life, it's a legacy." Catherine reached forward, her voice steady and warm. "Then we'll serve with the same devotion you've shown, both as family and in duty." The king took her hand gently. "Then I know Britain is in good hands," and just like that, the moment was sealed. 2 days later, the news hit every corner of the kingdom. The palace statement confirmed that King Charles Roman III, now following medical advice, had officially handed day-to-day royal duties to the Prince and Princess of Wales. It was framed as an act of continuity, wisdom guiding the monarchy into a new era. Church bells rang, flags flew high, and messages of support poured in from across the Commonwealth. Preparations moved swiftly for a formal blessing, a symbolic moment at Westminster Abbey, followed by a public appearance at Windsor. It wasn't a coronation, but a moment of renewal, a recognition of a shared reign. On the day of the blessing, sunlight spilled through the Abbey's great arches, casting a golden glow over the silent crowd. Senior royals, clergy, and state leaders gathered where King Charles himself had been crowned. 2 years earlier, the Archbishop of Canterbury had led that service, his voice steady and commanding. "As this crown passes through hands of service," he intoned, "may it rest upon hearts of duty." The words hung in the vaulted space, solemn yet full of hope. Then came the moment that would be remembered in history. Princess Anne stepped forward, calm and poised, holding the newly commissioned Queen Consort's crown, a masterpiece crafted by the royal jeweler since 1735. With quiet grace, Princess Anne presented the crown to Catherine. It was a simple yet electric moment. History whispered in every gesture. The palace later explained that two crowns were made, the main state crown kept in the Tower of London and a lighter version for blessings and ceremonies. Catherine wore the lighter crown briefly as she knelt before the archbishop, composed and serene. When she rose, the abbey bells rang out, filling the air with joyful solemnity. She wasn't just receiving a crown. As one observer whispered, she was accepting a nation's trust. Hours later, Catherine and William arrived at Windsor Castle for their first walk, about as future king and queen. Crowds had gathered early along the long walk, waving flags and holding flowers, buzzing with excitement, yet maintaining calm and respect. Many said they had come simply to show support for the couple. William moved with relaxed focus, stopping often to speak with the crowd, shaking hands and sharing smiles. Catherine, in a simple gray coat, accepted flowers and chatted with children, her calm poise drawing warm reactions from everyone she met. At one point, an elderly man stepped forward softly saying, "God bless the new queen." Catherine returned a gentle smile and a nod. Then he added, "God bless the king." The exchange was small but meaningful, a quiet moment that captured the spirit of the day. Even the palace photographers paused, sensing the weight of the moment, snapping pictures that would later define an era. Children waved excitedly, clutching homemade banners, while street performers nearby struck poses as if performing for royalty itself. Courtiers whispered quietly about how composed Catherine looked under the glare of the world's eyes. William's hand occasionally brushed Catherine's as they moved, a subtle signal of partnership and unity. Everything felt peaceful, perfect, like history unfolding in harmony until something happened that changed everything. Curious to see what happened next, stay tuned. Near the center of the crowd stood Jane, a mother from Reading, holding the hand of her 8-year-old daughter, Rose. The little girl clutched a bunch of daisies tied with a blue ribbon. "When they come closer, I'll give her my flowers," Rose said, her eyes locked on Catherine. Jane smiled, brushing a loose curl from her daughter's face. "We'll wait until it's our turn, love. Just hold my hand tight." But as the couple drew nearer, the crowd's energy shifted. People leaned forward, craning for a better view. Voices rose, flags waved, and the excitement built. Suddenly, Rose's small hand slipped from her mother's grasp. "She's right there," Rose shouted, and before Jane could react, the little girl pushed forward into the throng. "Rose, wait," Jane cried, shoving through the crowd, but the line was tight, and few noticed the small figure slipping ahead. Rose squeezed between two adults and reached the front barrier. Daisy still clutched tightly in her hands. Catherine was just a few steps away, smiling and shaking hands. William followed, greeting a group of school children. Jane's heart pounded. Rose, stop. "Come back!" She screamed again, but the cheering drowned her out. Catherine's voice rang clearly, thanking a woman for her flowers. Security tried to steady the crowd, but the excitement only grew. People pressed forward as William and Catherine drew closer. A guard shouted for everyone to step back. Only a few heard, then it happened. In a single terrifying moment, the front row shifted. Someone stumbled, others pushed forward without meaning to. The pressure rippled through the line. Jane felt herself yanked, struggling to stay upright. "Stop pushing," someone shouted. Another voice yelled, "A child's there. Be careful." Catherine's smile faltered as she glanced toward the front. William raised a hand, signaling the guards, but the noise and the movement were overwhelming. Rose, still at the barrier, lost her footing as the surge pressed behind her. The daisies slipped from her hands. She looked back toward her mother, wittied, then she fell. Jane screamed, dropping to her knees, pushing through the throng. "Rose, Rose," she cried. Security rushed in immediately. People near the front tried to pull back, creating space. The cheering vanished in an instant, replaced by stunned silence. William stepped forward, speaking urgently to a guard. Catherine stood frozen, hand over her mouth, eyes locked on the ground. Medics arrived within moments. Jane reached her daughter first, brushing dirt from her face, whispering, "Rose, Rose." Her daughter didn't answer. Catherine took a careful step closer, but stopped, frozen in the moment. As the security team formed a tight circle around the scene, the distant sound of Windsor Castle's bells carried faintly over the crowd, bright, far away, heartbreakingly out of place. Rose was lifted carefully onto a stretcher and rushed toward a waiting ambulance. The crowd froze, flags drooped, phones lowered, cameras went silent. Jane followed closely, holding the small bunch of daisies that had fallen to the ground for the first time that day. Windsor, once alive with celebration, was eerily still. What had begun as a joyful renewal had shifted instantly, reminding everyone how quickly joy can turn to fear. Catherine and William stood together, hands clasped tightly. The moment meant to mark the start of a new chapter had shifted into shock and worry, but there was no time to pause. As the ambulance drove off, the crowd slowly began to disperse. Some cried quietly, others stood frozen, unsure what to do. A few tried to comfort Jane's husband, who had been watching from further back. Police and guards instructed everyone to move slowly and stay calm. The earlier excitement had vanished, replaced by tension and concern. William stood quietly, eyes on the fading blue lights of the ambulance down the road. Catherine's face was pale, lips pressed together. After a few moments, William leaned toward his aide. "We'll go, too," he said quietly. The aide nodded and spoke swiftly into his radio. A black car pulled up nearby. William guided Catherine toward it as the crowd parted silently. No cheers, no waving, just anxious, watchful eyes. As the couple entered the car, a woman whispered from the crowd, "They're following the ambulance." Moments later, the car set off in the same direction. The crowd trickled away slowly, murmuring in low voices, many shaken by what they had witnessed. The long walk, once buzzing with color and sound, was now quiet and empty. The drive from Windsor Castle to Frimley Park Hospital took under 20 minutes. The royal car followed the ambulance the entire way, flanked by 2 police motorcycles, clearing the road ahead. Inside, William and Catherine sat in tense silence. Catherine's hands were tightly clasped in her lap, William's eyes fixed on the flashing blue lights ahead. By the time they arrived, the ambulance had already pulled into the emergency bay. Paramedics rushed Rose inside on a stretcher. Jane was beside her, pale and frightened, still holding her daughter's small hand. Security officers sealed the main entrance, controlling the growing crowd outside. Hospital staff stood ready at the doorway, waiting to receive the couple. The cool, tense air echoed with hurried footsteps across the tiled floor. When William and Catherine stepped inside, Rose had already been taken to the emergency room, leaving a chilling silence in their wake. The couple was met by Nurse Amelia Hayes, who led them quietly down the corridor. "The little girl is being seen by Dr. Clark, our lead consultant," she explained. "Her mother is just outside the ward." Turning the corner, they saw Jane pacing up and down, arms folded tightly around herself. When she spotted them, she froze, her mouth opened as if to speak, but no words came. Catherine stepped forward, gently touching her arm. "Please don't get up," she said softly. Seeing how dazed Jane looked, she added, "We came as soon as we could." "How is she?" Jane's voice trembled. "They said she hit her head when she fell." There was blood. Her words caught in her throat. Catherine guided her to a nearby chair. "She's in the best hands," she said calmly. "You did everything right." William remained standing close by, his tone quiet and steady. "It must have been terrifying," he said. Jane nodded, trying to control her tears. It was she just slipped away from me. I saw her running. Then the crowd pressed forward and I couldn't reach her. Catherine handed her a tissue from the small pack she carried. You don't have to explain, she said kindly. Children get excited, especially in moments like these. Jane wiped her face. She only wanted to give you her flowers. I know, Catherine said, smiling faintly. They were beautiful for a while. The hallway was silent except for muffled voices behind the emergency doors. A clock ticked steadily on the wall. The faint hum of the crowd lingered beyond the barriers. About 45 minutes later, Dr. Stephen Clark, the hospital's lead emergency consultant, stepped through the swinging doors, his white coat slightly wrinkled, his expression calm. Your Royal Highnesses, Mrs. Bennet, thank you for waiting, he said politely. Rose stable. She's had a mild concussion and a few bruises, but no fractures or serious injuries. We're keeping her for observation overnight just to be safe. Jane let out a long breath, pressing her hands to her face. Thank God, she whispered. Catherine's relief was visible. Can we see her? She asked, of course. Doctor. Clark said, she's awake now, a bit tired, but she's asking for her mom. He led them down the corridor into a small recovery room. Rose lay in bed, a bandage on her forehead and an oxygen clip on her finger. She looked tiny and pale under the bright hospital lights, but her eyes fluttered open at the sound of her mother's voice. Mommy, Rose whispered. Jane rushed to her side, taking her small hand. I'm here, darling. You're safe now. Rose blinked, then looked past her mother to the two figures standing near the door. A small smile brightened her face. You came, she said weakly. Catherine stepped closer, smiling warmly. Of course we came. You gave us quite a scare. I wanted to give you my flowers, Rose murmured. Catherine noticed the little bouquet on the table beside the bed, slightly crushed but still bright. She picked it up gently. And you did, she said. They're lovely, thank you. William moved closer, his voice calm and kind. You were very brave, Rose. Next time, promise me you'll let your mom stay beside you. All right, Rose nodded. I promise. Jane managed a small, tearful smile. She's been talking about you both for weeks, she said softly. Catherine looked at her warmly. She's a sweet girl. You must be very proud. Doctor, Clark stepped forward. We'll monitor her overnight and likely release her tomorrow morning. She just needs rest, William nodded. Thank you, Doctor. Please make sure all her care and expenses are covered. Every test, every medication. Dr. Clark hesitated. Sir, that's not necessary. William raised a calm hand. It is. Jane looked startled. Oh, Your Highness, you don't have to. Catherine added gently. It's already arranged. You've been through enough today. Please, just focus on Rose. Jane's lips trembled. I don't know how to thank you. William smiled faintly. You don't have to. A nurse quietly entered to adjust Rose's blanket. Catherine bent down, brushing a strand of hair from the little girl's face. Rest now, she whispered softly. We'll see you again soon. Rose's eyes were already closing. Can I bring more flowers next time? She murmured. Catherine smiled. Only if you promise to walk, not run. Rose giggled sleepily before drifting off. The nurse dimmed the lights and the group stepped quietly into the hallway. Dr. Clark said, We'll take good care of her. Catherine nodded. I know you will. Thank you. Outside, evening had deepened. The press lingered behind police lines, flashes flickering faintly. The couple did not speak to reporters. They gave only a brief nod before entering their car. As they drove away, the hospital lights glowed softly behind them. Catherine gazed out the window. She's so small, she said quietly. and she just wanted to give me flowers. William reached over and took her hand. She'll remember that, not the fall, he said. Neither spoke again for the rest of the drive back to Windsor. The road was quiet that night. Inside the car, the only sound was the steady hum of the engine and the shared understanding that this day would stay with them for a long time. But the story didn't end there. It only got bigger. By the next morning, every major news outlet in Britain had picked up the story. The Guardian led with Windsor walkabout turns emotional, child injured as royals rush to hospital. The Daily Mail followed with William and Catherine's first outing as future king and queen ends in shock and compassion. Even international networks like CNN and Sky News broadcast the footage. Short clips of the walkabout flooded screens everywhere, showing the crowd surge, the ambulance racing away, and the royal car following behind. On social media, the event dominated conversations. X, formerly Twitter, and Instagram exploded with videos and posts tagged #Windsor walkabout, #Princess Catherine, #RoseWinds. Some praised the couple for their quick, human response. Others questioned how the event had been managed. "This shouldn't have happened," one comment read. Another added, "Security should have been tighter. The king would never have allowed such chaos." Then others defended William and Catherine. "They showed real heart following that ambulance," one user wrote. "It wasn't protocol, it was human. That's exactly what the monarchy needs." The debate exploded online. Some argued the couple should have continued greeting the public to avoid panic, while others insisted leaving with the ambulance was the right decision. By afternoon, the discussion moved beyond the incident. Commentators drew comparisons between William's modern approach and the traditional style of past monarchs. A former royal correspondent told BBC Radio 4, "It was a moment that revealed the difference between duty as performance and duty as care." Even public figures weighed in. TV hosts, politicians, and celebrities reposted clips, adding their own commentary. One popular Instagram post read, "They didn't wave from the car. They followed an ambulance. That's not weakness. That's leadership." Not everyone agreed. A smaller group criticized the couple, saying their actions disrupted a carefully planned event and drew unnecessary attention. They should have reassured the public and addressed the situation later. One post read, "The online split was clear. Empathy versus protocol." Inside Clarence House, aides monitored reactions closely. Royal advisors worried that speculation could overshadow the main point. Rose Bennet's recovery. Princess Anne, watching the news from Sandringham, reportedly told a staff member, "They did what was right." You don't plan kindness, you act on it. Still, senior palace officials knew public perception mattered. Later that afternoon, Kensington Palace issued an official statement from Prince William. "Yesterday's events at Windsor were deeply unfortunate. Our thoughts are with Rose Bennet and her family, and we are grateful to the emergency teams and medical staff for their care and professionalism. We wish Rose a swift and full recovery. While the walkabout did not go as planned, Catherine and I believe moments like this remind us of what truly matters: the safety, dignity, and well-being of every person we meet." The message was brief, sincere, and personal, exactly what the public had come to expect from the couple. Within an hour, it was reposted on the official royal family social media accounts. It went viral. Shared over 1 million times, it quickly became one of the most liked posts ever made by the royal household. Comments poured in beneath it. "Grace under pressure," one wrote. Another simply said, "This is what a modern monarchy looks like." By evening, headlines softened. The focus shifted from criticism to compassion. Reporters outside Frimley Park Hospital noted that Rose's condition was improving, and that the royal couple had checked in once again. The public mood turned hopeful. Many who had been critical the day before now praised William and Catherine's handling of the situation. That afternoon, William called Frimley Park Hospital to check on Rose. Dr. Stephen Clark, the same doctor who had treated her the day before, answered. "Good evening, Doctor. William said. "It's William. I just wanted to see how Rose Ben it is doing and whether she's been discharged yet." Dr. Clark's voice was calm and cheerful. "Good evening, Your Royal Highness. Rose is doing very well. She's awake, talking, and eating a little. We're keeping her overnight for one last round of observation. If all goes well, she'll be discharged tomorrow morning." William allowed himself a small smile. "That's good news, Doctor. Thank you. Please tell her we're thinking of her and that Catherine and I will see her soon." "Of course, sir." Dr. Clark replied. "It will mean a lot to her." When William ended the call, Catherine looked up from her chair. "She's still there," she said softly. "Yes," he replied, "but she'll be home tomorrow." "I think we should go." Catherine nodded. That settled it. The next morning, as the first light touched Windsor, the royal car left quietly for Frimley Park. No media announcement, no official escort, just William, Catherine, and their protection team. When they arrived, the hospital staff were taken by surprise. Patients in the corridor whispered as the couple walked through the hall, smiling softly and greeting nurses by name. Jane Bennet, sitting by her daughter's bed, looked up in disbelief as the door opened. "Oh, Your Highnesses," Jane said, standing quickly. "We didn't expect. You've had enough surprises this week." William smiled gently. "We thought we'd make this one a good surprise." Catherine walked over to the bed where Rose sat, her arm in a light cast. The little girl's eyes widened, then she smiled shyly. "Hello again, Rose," Catherine said warmly. "You gave us quite a scare." Rose nodded. "Mommy says I ran too fast." Catherine laughed softly. "Mama's usually right." The room brightened with quiet laughter. Nurses peeked in from the hallway, smiling at the scene. William spoke with Dr. Clark for a few minutes, confirming that the hospital had everything it needed. He again offered to cover any additional costs, and the doctor assured him all was well. When the discharge papers were finally signed, William and Catherine stayed to help gather Rose's things, a small blanket, a teddy bear, and a bouquet of flowers someone had sent. They walked out together, cameras waiting outside. Catherine carried Rose gently in her arms. William walked beside them and Jane followed close behind. It was a simple moment, but one that spread around the world within hours across television networks and online feeds. The image became a symbol not of royalty on display, but of compassion in motion. 3 days later, the news reached King Charles Roman III at Sandringham House, where he had just finished a round of therapy. Princess Anne entered his study carrying the morning papers. "They've done well," she said, placing one before him. The headline read, "William and Catherine leave hospital with child they comforted." Charles adjusted his glasses, studying the photograph. Catherine's expression was calm. William's proud, but humble. "They did what was right," he said slowly. "In all my years, I've never seen such instinct. Not for ceremony, but for people." He looked toward Anne with a faint smile. "I've made the right choice. They'll do well, better than any of us could have hoped." Anne smiled back. "They already are." And so what began as a day of celebration that turned briefly to fear ended with a message that reached far beyond Windsor. The first outing of the future king and queen might not have gone as planned, but it revealed something deeper than tradition or title. It showed the world the leaders they were becoming, people who placed humanity above ceremony, care above appearance, and service above the crown. What do you think about Catherine and William's first outing as king and queen? Were they right to leave the crowd and follow the ambulance, or should they have stayed and continued the event? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more, and click the next video on your screen. You won't want to miss